everybody, welcome to Flower Pros, another one of our podcasts. And I'm just like, every podcast that we do just seems to become more and more fun because you get to learn about different people. And in this case, it seems like I'm the interesting part of this conversation that we've had, as Eric, who has just joined our company, has been invited to be a guest by me because I think he's a very interesting new uh, part of our family that we're growing with. And the way he brings his questions up and what he has noticed. I thought it'd be interesting for everybody to get to meet him and realize that that curiosity factor is happening in everyone's flower shop, not just over here. So, Eric, welcome to the team. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And basically, I'm an open book, man. Like I told you, there's no script. Take it away. Ask any questions you want. I'm open.
Well, that's perfect because I'm a naturally curious person and I
You
have
are.
a handful of questions I'd love to pick your brain about. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Washington State. Two parents from New York. They moved out there in the 80s and brought my brother along into the world shortly after that. I ended up going to college in Montana, and that really spurred my interest in just moving, living somewhere else, which brought my wife and I out here to Sarasota, Florida in September, beginning of September, for just a whole new start, just a different way of life, and could not be happier. So that's
Boy,
what
was it
brings
ever?
me
You came in
here.
right before the hurricanes.
I know everybody said they're like, this is your initiation, and we had two back to back. So I think I'm officially a Floridian now. I think that's how that works.
Well, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. Yeah,
All right, so go take it away. You've always asked me some really great questions, and I feel like the answers have been answers I wish more people asked and knew about. So again, open book. Tell me what it's been. You came on board a couple months ago. Hurricanes happened, and then here you are in another part of the country, being told it's wonderful to live through, but then you have to deal with no power and hurricanes, and that's all behind us now. What's it like?
man, I couldn't be happier living here. When my wife and we drove across country to move here, and the minute we got into Florida, both of us looked at each other and went, "This feels like home." And that's the first time for either of us. So we've absolutely fallen in love. Hurricanes could not deter us. I laugh with people. I go, if that's the price I have to pay to live here, I'm in. I'm sold. It's a good deal for me still. So yeah, I mean, coming in, I had kind of one of the first things that I actually want to pick your brain about is I knew nothing about the floral industry, which I think is probably a, a thing most people. I would imagine most people know very little about the floral industry.
True.
And so one of my, I guess, misconceptions coming in was that it seems like a pretty simple business, seems like a pretty easy thing to do to run a flower shop. But from talking to our clients, I quickly realized that that doesn't seem to be the case. And so I'm wondering, like, with so many people imagining or thinking or believing that a flower shop is such an easy business to run, help me understand why that's not the case. You know, you've run a very successful flower shop. I would imagine you probably have quite a few insights as to maybe why people think it's easy, but definitely why it's not so easy.
The most common reason I hear is my wife had a green thumb. I just retired, and we thought it'd be cute to have a flower shop. It'd be cute. It's nice. It's a flower shop. How hard can it be? I hear all the flower shops going, "What in the world did he just say?" Here's the truth. If I had to explain it again, Eric, I would say the flower shop is a business of beauty, transmitting a message. We are just the messenger. We really are. We are the messenger, and the flowers basically explain how much value that message carries. The bigger the bouquet, the more important the message is. The more roses, the more I love you. It's Valentine's Day, right? So, but what you really need to remember is there's a huge stopwatch that should be first and foremost on everyone's mind. Because the moment those flowers are cut, wherever they're cut, there is an imaginary stop clock that's going off. What is going to be the time it's going to take from them for the flowers to get from the farm to the wholesaler, where now they're considered fresh, but they're really, are they? Or are they a week old? Then the wholesaler has them on hand and tries to sell them, and then they get into the flower shop's hands. Now that shop gets them and says, "Hey, these just came in Monday." But what did it take to get to Monday? How long was it on the trucks? Were the trucks refrigerated? Did the flowers get transported properly? How long did it take to get through customs? Was customs handling the flowers properly? There are so many parts of this, Eric, that people don't realize, especially for Valentine's Day. What's the difference between a cheap rose and an expensive rose? I mean, they all come in tight, wrapped in great prepared shape, but you find out when you cut the flowers, put them in water, and then the older roses pop. That was a rose that's been sitting too long and now it just was dying for hydration, got the water, and then it just opened and it's over in 2 or 3 days at most. Then you have flowers that are properly managed and cared for, and those flowers with a high petal count would be considered a quality, really good product. How long does it take to get from the farm to the wholesaler to the flower shop are all the details that you need to cover to measure if you have a fresh product or not by the time you make it for a bouquet. So running a flower shop requires you to know that long before you start. And many people don't even know what I just said. They never even thought about that. They thought they called their wholesaler. The wholesaler says, take the yellow roses, they're beautiful. Or was it take the yellow roses because they've been sitting on them for a week? Now you get them in as a fresh product and then you try to sell them. You see, there's a lot of that going on. And here is the clincher. Nothing is dated. Can you imagine going to the supermarket and buying a gallon of milk without a date on it? That's what's going on in the flower. That's the biggest challenge we face in the flower industry still today, that the products aren't dated. So therefore, you really don't know how fresh they are. So you really want to trust in the shop that you're buying from that they have a great reputation. Do they move a lot of product? It's nice to support the little shop on the corner, but are they moving enough product to consider them fresh, and that the product that you get is going to be unique, different, and once again, fresh?
It's interesting. I didn't even consider when you said customs. I had never considered that some flowers would be coming from outside of the country and would have to come
Most,
through customs.
most.
Most. I never would have guessed that.
That's why more flower shops are going direct to the shipper, but are they? Because if they're going to Miami, they're going to another broker. They have to really truly go to the farms, and then that's considered fresh from the farm. There you go.
How did
See, another conversation we never had.
Yeah, how did you navigate that when you owned your shop?
I
Because
had
you
to
were
open
in
it up.
business for 30 plus years.
Yep. I'm not. I don't usually put names out there, but I really think that it's important to know this story. But Bill King from King's Wholesale was strong arming the flower shops. He was telling the wholesalers to. He was telling the wholesalers that if he saw one of the delivery trucks at a local flower shop, he would not buy from them anymore. Came from Bill, and that made my life very difficult. And so at that point, I realized, the old saying, "Keep your enemies closer and your friends closer, your enemies closer." I felt he wasn't a friend. He was trying to do everything he could to stop us from doing the best business we can do. Instead of partnering up and saying, "Look, we understand you can get flowers, and we understand you can get these as well. What can we do to make our relationship better?" That's not what he did, and I really sat on that for a long time before I felt like it was time for people to know that a lot of this was done by local wholesalers. It wasn't the growers and it wasn't the trucking lines, but they were stuck. They're like, "What do I do? Do I take care of the local florist? Do I want to take care of? But this guy orders a lot of flowers, and I don't want to lose him." So that's truly what happened behind the scenes, and he stopped that from us being able to get product directly from the source. And for that, we have to go through all the rules of wholesaling. You have to be established for so many years. You have to have 4 or 8 active accounts that are buying from you. You need to show receipts that this was all going on. So I opened up AFC Wholesale, and I started doing business as AFC Wholesale. And that's the only way we can get around that, was to become a wholesaler and then open up another division of Beneva. And I was my biggest customer, but I had other customers because I had a group where I built websites for people and did business with them. So they would start to buy some product from me, and that's how I got my license. And then I became a wholesaler. Now they couldn't stop me from retailing flowers, but that's what I was dealing with. On one side is, hey, we're your buddy. On the other side, I'm being told by the trucking companies that he was not willing to let us get flowers direct.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's, yeah,
Sad to say.
ruthless business.
It
It's
was.
funny. when I asked that question of how you navigated it, I had a hunch that you probably did something creative. Like, you're an industrious person. You're definitely the I will figure out a way type of guy. And so I suppose it doesn't really surprise me that you were like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become my own wholesaler to resolve this problem for myself and others. And I would
Right.
imagine,
Yeah.
knowing you, because like the one thing, it's funny, the one, like, if there's one thing that all of our clients say, they're like, Art is passionate. Like, Art cares. He really wants us to be successful. And he really does like whatever he can do to try and make us be successful. And so it doesn't surprise me that when you started your own wholesaler, like, you had other people with you who were like, yeah, I'll do business with him. So
Well,
that's really
they needed
cool.
their products too. They were trying to get good deals on their products. I didn't sell that many to them. I wasn't trying to get around the wholesalers, but I just needed to have that option because flower costs kept going up. And to be honest with you, we weren't happy with the quality that we were being offered. So we were going direct to the source. But I just had enough of it, and we went. I tell people all the time, you got to order gatherers sending orders into your area. How do you get around that? By saying no, I'm not going to take your orders isn't fixing the problem. What happens is you got to figure out a better way to stop the problem than to just say, I'm not going to play anymore if you're going to do that. So rather than saying, okay, well, I guess I can't buy flowers direct, I'll buy from you. No, I'll become a wholesaler. What do I need to do? 4 years it took me to get that license. So I made a wholesale company, and then that
Wow.
opened my doors out for everywhere. I could buy. I had the most beautiful flowers. I had that Black Label Rouge rose that I had. Boy, I'll tell you what, the most spectacular petal count. You would drool when you saw this rose. It opened up, Eric, like a. It was just gigantic. Now, granted, internally, people would say it looks like a cabbage. It's ugly. I'll give you that, and that's subjective. But it was the biggest rose you can get, large petal count, and I branded it. I put a name on it. I put a black label. I'll show you that on the screen here, and you can see it. So we made that the most beautiful, most exotic rose that you can get. But the marketing also added to that, Eric. We had to make sure that when people got that rose, they realized that they had this rose that was going to perform like no other. They had the label on there. They saw the rose, and a week later, they saw why it was a black label.
That's, that's awesome.
Be the
That's
best you
such a,
can be. I mean, there's always another way, right? So, let me tell you
yeah.
about the order gatherers. Back in 1992 ish, there was a company, Exotic Flowers in Boston. Really great family that runs that up there. And I think it was Sonny Canali, and he had tried to send orders across the country. So he put ads in all the yellow pages along the East Coast, Eric. I mean, every yellow page had an ad in it, and he would take the orders, get his commission, and send it back to us. The people had a fit, and all the florists got together and they said, we're not going to take his orders. I hope we're all in on this. Of course, I wasn't. And they said, typical Art Conforti, why can't you support our efforts? I said, if it made sense, I would. But what are you really doing? The man's an entrepreneur. He's willing to take the risk of advertising all these yellow pages. And you want to stop him by just getting together and strong arming him. That's not the way to do business as far as I'm concerned. Why don't we just work together? And if you think it's such a great idea, you go put an ad in his yellow pages or in all the yellow pages. Now, let me also explain to you, Eric, that the yellow pages gave them a 35% discount.
Oh,
35% discount. So the problem is the yellow pages. What are you going to do? You're going to go to yellow pages and say, I'm not going to advertise with you? Well, their days come, obviously. Welcome, Google. But
yeah.
but the point was that it was them that caused the national gathering, getting people to be aggressive. So the entrepreneur says, I get a 35% discount if I advertise in all these backyards, and I pay full price if I advertise in my own. Well, come on, guys, let's get mad at the wire. Let's get mad at the yellow pages. Their yellow pages were the problem, but the florists didn't want to see that. They wanted to fight back. They wanted to beat him by getting all the florists to sit there and say, we're not going to take your orders. It's just not good business, in my opinion.
It's funny. It's like you said earlier, where you're like, what are you going to do? Stop using wholesalers. So like, what are you going to do? Stop marketing?
Right.
And you're
Well, why
like,
don't you step it up and you do the marketing too? Because it was the yellow pages that were causing the problem. So let's at least look and see where the problems are. It's like today, you get people that are mad at Teleflora and FTD and all the wire services because the gatherers, well, the gatherers are going to gather anyway. All you can do is work with them or work against the system. How far is that going to take you?
yeah. I remember this was probably in college or maybe shortly after college. My good friend explained to me the concept of game theory, and he's like, basically, it's just a theory of not trying to always win at everything, but to make sure that you're always in the game. You're always still playing.
I
And
agree.
so it's interesting the way you're talking about, when you had this issue with the wholesalers, you were like, rather than just going, I'm going to boycott wholesalers or whatever, or complain, you're like, let me figure out a way to keep playing. And with this marketing thing, you're like, if I thought it was a bad idea, I would be on your team to go against this guy. But you're like, it's not his fault that this is the way the system is set up. He's just like us trying to do business. He wants to be successful. And if they're telling him we're going to incentivize you for marketing elsewhere, like that just it makes sense to do it. And from his perspective, he's like, I have to run a successful business. I'm sure he had employees. He has to pay them. He's got to pay for product.
Right.
Like it costs money to run a business. And so for him to go, okay, how can I keep playing to the best of my abilities? Let me figure out a new way to do it. And it's
Right.
funny that you talk about marketing and you're like, yellow pages and you're like, they've seen their day thanks to Google. And here we are in the digital marketing era. And we still kind of run into some of those same sort of pushbacks where I think people just don't understand maybe the game that they're playing, which is unfortunate because they're kind of stuck playing it. That's the way the world goes.
Well, you saw what I told you about how to fix the order gathering problem. We have a problem in our industry right now that everyone is starting to say to the customer, here, you call the person in New York and find a good shop because we don't know who to call. We've got a great shop here in Sarasota. That's not the way to do it. I was at a flower shop yesterday and I said to them, why don't you want to take those? What are you going to do with the wire out orders? He goes, we help them find a shop and we walk them to the computer and they select the shop. So here's what they've done. They've done all the work. They found a flower shop. They lost their $15 transfer fee. They lost their commission on sending an order out. And they brought the customer with their credit card into the hands of the competition. Now, I know you're going to say, but they're in Boston. And we want to think that they're just going to use them in Boston and they're just going to do business in Boston. What if that guy's an aggressive marketer and he sends out a letter and that letter says, hey, we'd love to take care of all your orders across town of the USA. And let's just say down the road, they give them an order because they made it so easy to order with them. Let's keep in mind, Eric, that's why I say to you guys, the easier you make people to do business with you, the more business they're going to do.
You look at Amazon.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
know what?
that's the
Great point.
epitome of it.
How easy is it to shop on Amazon? How about Google? How about the TikTok shop? You almost
Yeah.
look at something and you're ordering it. They made it so easy. So retailers, listen up. The easier you make that checkout process, the more sales you're going to convert. So that's what happened. So they took that, and that's the model that we went with, and just made it so easy for people to do business with you. They wouldn't think of going anywhere else. So you've taken the customer. Now, hopefully that customer wasn't in a rush. They want to order flowers. They want to send flowers to their mom up north or something. Now we're going through this big ordeal. How many people have time to do all of this? So you've made it clear to them, I can't send your orders out of town. Here's what Art Conforti would have done and did. One-stop shopping across town or the USA. You come to me, give me your credit card information just once, and then let me have the list. We'll take it from there. What price range are you comfortable with? Well, considering all the different areas in the country you're sending to, my advice to you would be let the local florist create something stunning, unique, and one of a kind in the price range comfortable for you, and we'll get it delivered tomorrow like you asked for. That wasn't as hard as it sounded. It was really simple. Take the customer order. What you've done is you've talked them into what's called a designer's choice, Eric. It's just basically letting here's how the florist does it. Oh, just get a designer's choice. It's easy. No, it's creative. It's different. It's a way to help people get more value because you're going to use the most seasonal flowers in that area, and they're going to turn around and make it into something truly unique. Let me give you another example. Say you're in
I think I
Boston.
lost you.
Say you're in Boston and you want to send a blooming plant to Sarasota, and you love hydrangeas. So you say to them, please send me a blooming hydrangea plant to Sarasota. Why? It's our job to make you understand that hydrangeas don't bloom in Sarasota. They're not a Florida plant. But the customer doesn't need to have to know that. They don't have to be educated unless they want to. But why don't we offer them what's good in Florida, like a nice hibiscus plant? Oh, what's that? They don't know, but it's nice. So wouldn't it be better if they gave the florist $75 and said, get the nicest blooming plant in Sarasota? Now the recipient receives a nice plant, it's blooming, and it's just everything is good about that order. And you made $15 extra for doing the work for somebody. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, and I know from like strictly from the customer point of view, which until joining Bloomerang was literally all the exposure I had to the floral industry. And so I even knew, like, okay, look, for one, like you were talking about, simple, make it easy for the customer. As the customer, if I already have a flower shop by me that I trust, they've served me well, I like supporting local small businesses anyways, I would love to go to them and say, hey, can you just help me solve this problem? I need to send flowers to my mom in Washington from Florida.
Right.
You know, rather than me going like, okay, now I have to find a reputable florist in Washington while I'm across the country. So it's like, okay, am I going to go based on reviews? Do I go based on the products on their website? I know nothing about flowers. I'm a guy. My mom knows, like, I'm not picking out flowers. So I would always, anyways, I'd go, do they have some sort of a designer's choice? I didn't know that phrasing when I was, before joining Bloomerang, but I would look at it and go like, okay, do they have like something like the florist's recommendations? Or I'd call them and say, what do you recommend? You're the expert, not me. I just need to send beautiful flowers to my mom. She doesn't care what's in season. She cares about beautiful products, beautiful flowers.
Right.
And so it's interesting to me when I talk to a lot of florists, almost unanimously, they dislike the wire outs. Like they don't like them. They don't like doing it. And you've described to me, it's like, it's not really that much of an inconvenience for the florist to do. I get it. There's sometimes concern about pricing and whatever, making it worth their while. But it's like, also consider, unless you're losing money, what you're gaining is an amazing customer experience.
Right.
And what every business owner I've ever talked to talks about is you want repeat clients. You don't want just transactional clients. One comes in, one goes out. You got to find a new one the next day. You want a client that comes back and goes, you treated me so well. I want to do more business with you.
Right. Right.
And it's like you described. Yeah. And so it's funny, like the way you describe it, the way you talk about wire outs, it doesn't shock me that you had such a large business as a florist. And I'm sure you had so many return customers. I mean, you were showing me a picture the other day of you guys decorating a hotel. Right. I don't know how many florists get that opportunity, but you need to be well respected and well known in the area for something like that to happen. And you need repeat clients who like you to recommend you to a hotel or someone like that. So
I think what you're saying, Eric, you
yes,
need to earn their trust.
Yes, exactly.
It's not it's nothing more than trust, because if you have a big hotel, you need a lot of horsepower, a lot of bandwidth to be able to manage that hotel. You might be the most creative 1 or 2 man show in the town, but when they call you up for a party and they want a bunch of arrangements for the lobby and they got room arrangements, who's going to do all that work and turn it around next day?
And do it well.
Right. We were the house florist for the Ritz for over 20 years since it was created. I mean, I'll never forget the work that it took to manage that account. We had people and departments and programs, one after another after another. I think to myself, I'm not worried about losing this because I don't know who else could really manage it within a 50 miles of our store.
Yeah.
And you should really feel like that about your business every day you go to work. That brings a good point up. How about we all check our egos at the door and think to myself, would I buy from this business if I weren't the owner? Like when you walk in the door, do you feel like you are the one-stop shop for anyone sending flowers? Because if you've got a restriction here, a limitation there, then you might not be the best choice. You want to make sure that you're everything to everybody, and next thing you know, you'll see your business grow up. And next thing you know, you'll see your business grow.
That's where those big opportunities come from. It's like,
Yes.
it's really fundamentally, it's just customer service and caring. Like I said before, you're so passionate about this industry. And I'm like,
I
it
love it.
totally shows and everybody knows it. So this brings me into one of the other things I talked about, or I wanted to talk about with you, because you mentioned selling websites, you'd go visit shops. We've been talking about this digital marketing side. You owned a floral business for 30 something years. At what point did you realize this is going to the internet? And then how did you get into that side of that business? You know, because now here you are today, you run, you know, a digital marketing firm focused a lot on the floral side. Like that's really where a lot of your passion and experience comes from. And so I'm curious, like from being a florist, how did you one identify that trend that things were going to the internet? And then how did you make that shift to really take advantage of that?
That's a good question. I always wanted to be everything to everybody. So if you need to send flowers out of town, I wanted you to call me. If you need flowers in town, I wanted you to call me. If you wanted the cheapest dozen roses on a Friday afternoon, I didn't want you to call me. Because if I buy the cheapest flowers in the market just to get that deal and I turn them over for a few dollars, okay, I got the sale. The person got a deal. That person was king for the night for the weekend. Monday morning when those flowers flop, it's my reputation that flops. And it wasn't worth it. I wasn't going to compromise my brand for a quick $10, $15. You know, pay the price for the roses. They are roses. They are not for everybody. But you know, when you got a Beneva rose, you know you got something that was going to be special. And I put my heart and soul into that rose because at the end of the day, it's one of the only flowers that people recognize you for. They got a great rose. Back in the day, way before you were even born, here we go, I'm getting so old. There was a rose called the Madame Del Bard. And I got to tell you, I don't know a person alive that ever saw one of those open. Eric, they come in like this, tight, beautiful, velvety. I mean, you couldn't wait for it to open. That's it. Like by day 3 or 4, you're waiting every day. Oh, I just got them. Oh, they're beautiful. Everyone wants to see them open, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be good. Yep. Done. Never opened. And I was like, that's not the way. That's not what a rose experience should be. It took me years to find that rose. And before that one, there was a rose called The Rose. Now all the oldies, the old timers are going to be like, hey, I remember that. I remember that rose. It's called The Rose. It was called a Visa. That's how old I'm really going back. Frank, you hear that? Frank Carboni taught me really well. I started my first jobs. But it was called the Visa. It was called The Rose. And it was just an ugly, cabbage-looking rose, but it opened beautifully and steadily. It wasn't the prettiest, but it opened. And so when I found this black label, I realized I found it. I got what I'm looking for because everyone's going to open and they're going to be beautiful. And I went with that. It was our brand for many years. Did I
Huh.
answer your question?
Almost a little bit. It's additional knowledge and
Okay.
information. How did that lead you to getting into the internet side of things?
Oh well, all right. I'll tell you about the internet, which is that's a fun story. A guy walked in my store, Rich Squires, and he says to me, "I'm not Rich Squires, Squires, Squire." No, I had a Squires friend from back in the day. All right. Anyway, so the guy comes into the office, and I've known him for a while, and yeah, it was Rich Squires, Swiers, and he had a company called Sarasota Online. He walks in, he says, in 1994, 5, internet was just becoming available. Hey, Artie, you should really get one of these websites. I said, what's the website? It's on the internet. People will be able to order flowers from it. I was like, oh, you got to be kidding. But, I was like, come on, flowers on it. It's okay, I'll try. $35 a month. He built me this nice little website. and you got to go to your computer. You got to click the button, and there's going to be a bell that's going to ring when an order comes in. Right? It was very, very new. Well, I did it, tried it out. Every once in a while, I got an order. You'd be surprised what people would tell me. Well, I'll tell you that in a minute. So I got it going, and therefore it was doing pretty decent, one order a month maybe. And then I get another order here and there. Well, one year it was February, and I hear ding, 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 like those commercials I used to play back in the day. Well, each one was an order coming in. I was like, wow. Now, I was just going to, after Christmas, I was going to cancel the web because I thought there's better things I can do with $35 a month. And I forgot. I procrastinated. And it just kept spitting off orders, Eric. It was like, look at all these orders. And I realized why. I never adjusted my rose prices. They were still the regular price. I didn't adjust them for Valentine's Day. So I took a huge hit. But it was an education. You don't learn from success. Failure is the best form of learning anything. So I got the orders, and I realized we need to start making phone calls. I said, what are we going to do? We're going to call every person back, explain to them what happened. The prices didn't get updated. We're sorry, but this is the regular price. If you don't mind, we'll give you free delivery or something like that. Most of the customers all said, no problem. Good luck with the roses. Great, thank you. And the few people that said, sorry, you quoted this price, we said, you're right, and we will honor it. We still honored it. We just asked if we could please charge the proper price. It was all fair. Everybody was happy, and we got it resolved. So that's when I realized there's something out there. I need to learn more. I want to learn about this. And next thing you know, I had my business cards printed, and on the bottom of my card, I put www.beneva.com. I'll never forget being at a florist show, and the guy says to me, "Oh, that's cute. That's nice. What's that? Your website or something like that?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's nice. You really think people are going to buy flowers on a computer?" I said, "Why not?" It said, "You got a lot to learn, kid." He was an old timer. We've been at this industry a long time, and there's been a lot of change, but people aren't going to buy flowers on a computer. It's just too impersonal, and they had every right to their opinion. Clearly, it was very wrong. So when you see new things coming your way, don't immediately exnate because you don't know enough about it. Find out who really does. I mean, it's like somebody saying, does Yahoo work better than Yelp, or does Yelp work at all? And I asked my friend, I said, who's your friend? They don't know anything about the internet, but they asked their friend. And for some reason, that's more valuable than somebody that knows what they're doing. So always make sure you check with people that know that they're qualified to answer your questions when you're learning about something new.
It's so true. One of my mentors back in Washington, he calls it OG Google. He goes, OG Google is your mom, your dad, and your best friend. They don't know anything about the topic, but you're going to ask them anyways, and you're going to trust their opinion. He's like, that's crazy. Go find someone who knows. Go get actual, verifiable information. But it's funny you're talking about how close you were really to missing the trend of the internet. One, you said yes. You said yes immediately. You were like, I'll try it, which is awesome. And that's the best way to find out for sure. Just try it. But the fact that you then forgot about it and then that worked out in your favor, it's like how many people, Jeff Bezos is a great example of this again with Amazon. I'm going to go sell books on the internet. Right. Like, what a goofy idea back in 1990 or whatever it was, like early 90s. What a goofy idea.
Yep.
To them back then. But look at it now and you're like, it's one of the most successful companies ever. And I remember, similar to what you're saying, like, who's going to buy flowers online? I wasn't around, for like the birth of the internet, but I was around when phones transitioned to smartphones. And everybody back then was like, who's going to do their banking on a phone? Who's going to buy things on the phone? And I was looking at it like, that doesn't seem that much crazier than buying it off a computer. Like, it just, I don't know, for me, it never seemed weird. But everybody was like, never going to happen. And you look at it today, you're like, everything is run on an app.
Well, let's talk about that. Back in 2009, I was getting prepared for knee surgery. I was getting my knee replaced, and my daughter comes in, and she shows me her new smartphone. And she's like, you know when smartphones came in, were created? Do you remember what year they were created?
06? No,
07. 2007 was when the smartphone was created.
Okay.
Well, so she shows me her phone, I said, so how do you buy flowers on this? Got silence. I don't know. I was like, can't you buy, is that like a flower app, floral app? Nothing. I said, let's build an app. They told me after my knee surgery that I had to stay in bed for 30 days. What am I going to do in bed for 30 days?
Knowing you, that's like the worst. That's like the worst sentence you could ever get.
That's how the app was created. I was in
That's
bed
hilarious.
working with my developers on this. This was not the developers of the website. This was not in their realm. I went out, I found a development team, several of them, and we put together what's called now Floral App. And it was amazing. And it was a lot of trial and error. I got all my guys together in the flower industry. They all chipped in. We built it. Wait a minute, we had to do a lot of stuff to get it verified because, like,
I bet.
like, how do I explain this without going too long? You had Apple and you had Android, and you had to build for the
Yeah.
different platforms. And let's face it, all this technology doesn't require a phone. You can do everything you can do on a phone on a computer. They choose to do it this way and restrict it so this phone continues to have value.
Yep.
So when you're building these, you have to get approved by the powers that be. And Apple was so difficult to work with. And because they wanted to charge 30%. And when we don't have 30% to give you, see, nobody knows what I went through in the back end of this. So when we finally got them to understand, it's not like music. They think in music, lots of margin, we want 30%. I said, these are flowers. And nobody built an app like I did, where the one code was able to feed all the users like a website. I built it and I started teaching people, getting people to download it because you have to have people engaged for it to work. But Eric, check it out. You're driving by my flower shop, we ding your phone. Hey, you're by Beneva Flowers. Take advantage of our buy one, get one. And we also set it to only go once a day. So every time you're driving up and down the road, you're not bothered. See, you can control all of that. And I was so proud of this. And I was watching one guy in Fairbanks, Alaska, saw orders coming in every single day. I was getting orders every day. Everybody that worked the app was very successful at it. And then you got the naysayers. You got plenty of people who want to sit back and say, it's not going to work. That's just life. That's the way people are. But guess what? It did work. And everybody around them, it worked for. So back in those days, Teleflora was very interested in checking out the app. You know, I've always loved working with Teleflora because they're always in it for what's best for everybody. And I'm saying, no, what's best for me and my group because we're going to make things work because we got our hands on it and we're going to work until it gets done. I'm sorry to say, but a lot of flower shops want someone else to do the heavy lifting for them. A lot of them. So that's why we do what we do. We'll do the heavy lifting so you can sell more flowers. Teleflora does the heavy lifting so you can sell more flowers. It's a lot of work in digital, as you know now, Eric, all the work that we do for our flower shops. It's overwhelming just to answer all of our questions, never mind run a flower shop.
Yeah.
So when we were going through this, they had a new hire in there. This girl, she was very nice. But Teleflora was also just creating their web version of their mobile version of their websites. So everybody was excited about that. I'm like, guys, can you just give me the spotlight for just a little while? Let me explain. This is just another version. So everybody thought that the Floral app was the same as the mobile version, and they just wouldn't hear me. And so they continued to develop their mobile version of their websites, which are perfectly done. They did a great job of it, no question. But I was trying to say the app is over here. It's not the same experience because this is location based. Doesn't that sound great? The problem
Yeah.
is we didn't speak like that back then. It was like, well, mine does the same thing, or it's just like all the terminology. You know, people didn't even know what SEO was back when they were doing it. They were
Oh
just saying
yeah.
put on your website. Nobody had all the acronyms and all the terms figured out yet. The same reason why our websites trumped everybody else, because Teleflora was still building and growing. We were out of the gate first, but nobody knew all the terminology of local-based pages and the clicks and the SEO. There's all these acronyms that kept going. I can go on and on, but I don't want to bore you. But that was all created in time. Well, my app, I should have just said it simple like that. It's web based, where a website, I'm sorry, it's location based, where the website is web based. So there's a big difference. You can do things based on the behavior of the customer, but you got to get them to download the app. So we would have giveaways at the holidays. Welcome to Beneva Flowers. Download our app for a chance to win an iPad. Download our app and get in a drawing for this. Download our app. We made a push. So we had so many people with the app on it. And then eventually Telflora ended up buying that, and they're working on hopefully bringing that back out, because here it is, 10 years since I sold it to them, and they have it. And they weren't too sure that it was going to be a thing. And I kept saying, guys, this is a thing. Like I said, Telflora's heart's in the right place, but they've got so much development that they're doing. There's only so many hours they can put into stuff. And I was hoping that they would just let me keep developing the app. I still think we have a huge opportunity with the app, because at the end of the day, what makes one flower shop different than another? They all have websites. They all have POS systems. But Telflora's got the keys to the future with the floral app.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because apps are, I mean, it's like, everywhere. So where I worked previously, they basically are like the backbone of the internet. So they provide end-to-end security for all applications. They work with the government, giant companies, small companies. And so working there, I really got to learn, like, yeah, everything is application driven now, and everything is getting more and more and more application driven. And so this, like, we started out with websites, and then it was the mobile sites, but now it's really like everything is an app. It's what we're used to. It's, quite frankly, it's what works the best. Right. And so it's funny that you were ahead of the curve. If you sold it 10 years ago and you started it in like 2007 or something, 2008, somewhere in there, 2009, it's like, man, that's so ahead of the curve. And I don't know, it's just funny to hear. It's like, I don't know, you were ahead of the curve with the internet. I know this kind of leads me into my next question. You kind of mentioned this. I know when you created your website, I don't know at what point, how long the time was between when you created it and when you started really selling websites and developing and selling websites for other florists. But what got, like, how did that all work out? How did you end up selling websites while also being a florist?
Well, what happened was after I got Sarasota Online, I had a couple other companies that tried to serve me, and I was just way too much to manage. I wanted way too much out of what I was doing. I wanted my website to emulate the walk-in experience of my flower shop. I had a cooler cam, so it was Saturday. They said, what do you have today? Well, go take a look in our cooler. We hit the button, and they can look inside the cooler, and they have 6 columns. They can pick an arrangement out. They can actually see the arrangement that they're going to get. That was ahead of its time. Then it still would be now if people would just use it. So our web developers were great. They built me whatever I wanted. That's what they promised me in the beginning. But remember, back in 1997, 98, it was very hard to get web developers. And if you can get one, they're usually working on projects way bigger than you can afford.
Yeah.
So trying to get their attention was really hard, but I did. I coughed up the money. I took the chance. I built my website, and everybody seemed to love it. It had reward points. It had incentives for people getting flowers. It had all the technologies you could ever need all under one roof, and it was managed very well by the company that built it. So I'm at a dinner one night with florists, and I'm going through like I am right now. I was just so excited about it. It can do this, it can do that. It gives you reward points with every purchase. You can do so much with it. I got the attention of this guy named Kerry Durbin. He was in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's like, I couldn't stop listening to you. I just loved everything you said. Can I possibly get a site like this? And my first reaction was like, no, it's mine. But, I spent all that money. I took all the chances. What if they would have gone south? What if the website didn't turn out well? Not only did it turn out great, but it cost $15,000 a year in bugs. So, I mean, it's a $40,000 website, $15,000 a year in bugs. And wow, was it expensive. I said, look, you're in Ohio. I'm in Florida. If you could stay in Ohio and I'm in Florida, I don't think it bothers either one of us to do business. He said, I'm good with that. I said, okay, let's do it. But you got to help me with the, got to split the bugs fees with me. So whatever problems that they find, whatever it is, we got to split that. They said, okay. The developer said, okay. So he got the first site. And then next thing you know, it's like three, four, five shops lined up right behind them. What can we have one of those? We'd like that site. Then people started seeing the kind of numbers we were putting up, and that was it. It just caught on like wildfire. Walter Knoll joined us, Ken Young, just so many, Tom Bozen, Jimmy Ganans, and Nansen Kraft. I mean, all the best names. Hortensia in Miami. I mean, we really had the best of the best. So in order for this to work, they would fly me out to their stores. I'd have an assistant with me, April or Tina, and I would be basically the visionary. I'd go into their store, I'd see how everything was working, and then I would analyze everything and make sure the website was set up to be able to touch everything that they're doing. Today they don't do that because they don't have somebody that knows the industry like I did. I mean, bringing me into everyone knows it's always great to bring another florist into somebody else's flower shop because that information is priceless.
Yeah.
And I would go in there and just start working through their business, and along the way, I would negotiate their yellow page ads, or I would negotiate their newspaper ads for obituaries. I would get exclusively the entire obituary section because the negotiation was the same every time. It was the same three newspapers across the country, so I knew how to talk the talk. I got the deals for all the flower shops. Next thing you know, the shop is riding on top of the world, and they were using everything I created. But in time, after retiring early and leaving it, a lot of those extra features went away, and they told me because nobody's running it or pushing it. I don't know where the future is going to be. I'll let you guys all know by next year, but I may end up back in the saddle again with that, or may not, maybe not. But I have a lot of fond memories. It was a great run. I don't know how much time I want to put into it. I do promote a lot of Teleflora shops as well because I think they're both the best of the best. And as far as I'm concerned today, I can't get over how beautiful the Teleflora shops are running and how easy they are to use. And plus, we do a lot of the servicing management for them. And for $99 a month, that's a lot cheaper than what we have to charge for it. But that's the thing. Teleflora really subsidizes so much of website operations that a lot of florists go into sticker shock when they leave Teleflora because it's not really that cheap to run a flower shop. And then here's a really biggest what's the word I'm looking for? Clinker or whatever you want to say. All right, this was the biggest difference. Bloom Nation comes into the game telling the flower shops, "Oh, you're just sick of being nickeled and dimed. We're going to make it great for you, and it's going to be better than ever. And they're just going to charge you a flat rate of 10%." And I was like, how is that a better deal? Flower shops think that's a better deal. I was like, 10%, but so on a $50 order, they charge you $5. I said, that's double what Teleflora charges you. And they're saying, what? I said, it's $5 on a $50 arrangement. Teleflora charges you $245. They only charge you $245, Eric. It's a flat fee. So if you sell a $100 arrangement, which is what most people are selling now, they're going to take $10. Teleflora still takes $245. How is Teleflora the villain?
Yes, that's bad math. If you think they're the villain, I'm not great at math, but I can do that math.
I mean, it's really easy math. And then not only that, but then flower shops think like you have to fill Teleflora orders. No, you don't. I wish you would. I don't own Teleflora because I think the greatest tool that we have today, what sets us apart from everyone, Eric, is the fact that we can deliver same day, every day, anywhere in the country. But we got to have florists that are going to work with us. You got to have a receiver to complete a pass for a quarterback. Everyone wants to be the quarterback, but if you don't have a receiver, you don't have a complete pass.
Yeah, it really is a team sport, like the wire ins, wire outs. I'm still learning kind of the details of that, but just on the face of it, that's a team effort. Because if you need to send this to, like I said, to Washington from Florida, you also need to understand that shop in Washington that helped you out or somewhere else might need to send something to Florida. And it's like, okay, it's part of the deal. I help you, you help me.
That was the only reason we filled orders, because we felt like it was our obligation to the industry. We were giving back. And it pains me to hear a flower shop say, I'm not filling any orders. Well, okay, I get it. you're not filling any orders, but what are you doing when you're not doing? You're not supporting what makes us special. And I'd like to see Teleflora make more of a point in how special our industry is because of that. I don't know where the industry would be without them. Where would they be? They do so much for the local florists. Most of the people that break away and they go wire service free are usually business free within a couple of years.
Interesting.
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, because they lose the. It's got to be like an education issue because the support of Teleflora, it's like you get rid of that. Yeah, you get rid of that, and then you have to do all of that on your own.
Yes.
And
it used to be
many shops can or will do all of that on their own.
It's hard. It's hard. Who's going to do the credit card clearing? Who's going to do the reconciliation? Who's going to take care of the product quality? Who's going to do so many things at the wire service? They do have nice containers, but you don't have to buy them. You don't have to fill their orders. Every time you have a problem, you call Teleflora and they do everything they can to make it right. And one time they can't do it, the florist is mad now. It used to be Teleflora too. I don't know what happened to them. They just like fell off the face of the earth. I'm sorry, FTD. They went to FTD used to also do a good job. I don't know where they are anymore. I know they're doing direct ship. It seems to be okay, but they're not helping the florist. What are you supporting? Yeah. You support FTD. They used to be the leader. And then you have BloomNet, which is 800 Flowers. Now they've got orders, and they also have websites that are up and coming too. So there's some competition coming up in the background. And you also have Flower Shop Network and a few other shops here and there. They're just not doing the job to the level of what Teleflora is doing it. And you wouldn't know that unless you've been studying the industry like I have. And, I welcome anybody to call me if they want to talk shop. You don't have to pay me. It's okay. Just call me. I'd love to talk shop with anybody. When I'm out traveling, I'm always in flower shops because I'd like to just have a back and forth, see where they are, how's the industry treating them. I truly love the industry. It's been done very well for me and my family, and it can do more for many people that are in it. But I just don't feel like they understand all the options that they have well enough.
I think it's interesting too, because I've had the privilege of going into a couple flower shops with you and just overhearing your conversations. Helped me learn tremendously, helping me learn tremendously as we keep going. And it's interesting. I've noticed a handful of shops, and I get this. This is just a people thing. They don't appreciate the fact that you are coming to the table with 30 plus years of experience, not just running a flower shop, but running an incredibly successful flower shop. And I'm always in disbelief that they don't have more questions and they're not more willing to say, help me. What should I do? You have been successful. Like, you've proven yourself. Help me understand, new in the industry or, maybe not new, but it's like they don't. It's like you were saying earlier with ego. They don't check the ego at the door. And they're not willing to go, hey, this guy's coming in with 30-something years of experience. Maybe I should shut my mouth and learn some things. I just find that interesting.
I think that part of the problem, Eric, is that you don't know what you don't know. When I sit there and talk to a flower shop, when I saw that one flower shop with the millimeter balls all wrapped up and they twisted it at least 30 times, I know what really happened. I don't know that many other people do, but the old-time florists know what happened. They sat there. Gladys was talking with Peggy, and they were making their balls, and they were rolling the balls, and you're paying for that. Meanwhile, a true florist is going to take 3 millimeter balls, wrap, done, wrap, done, wrap. That's putting the balls on a stick. It should not be a big event. It should be a part of your day. 1, 2, 3, go. Just like I never let people sit while they're designing. That's the worst thing you can do. You're at a job. You need to produce. Now, if you have a medical condition where you have to sit for a little while, I get it. But when you see people working sitting down, they could never keep up with the person that's standing. You're paying them. It's your call.
It's interesting, too, because I want to go back and talk about the millimeter balls in a second. But it's been proven neurologically that if you walk, if you're moving, your brain is working better. You're more creative. And so it's interesting. We've been to a couple flower shops, and one of the first things I noticed was they weren't sitting when they were doing their arrangements. One of the shops, there wasn't even a chair in the back. And it was like interesting. And she was on fire. Okay.
And I'm
But
not calling anybody out. Do your business the way you want. But I mean, they were sitting there, and of course, they were sitting. And come on. I mean, time is money. You
yeah, and it's like they're wasting their life. Like time is more than money. Time is so much more valuable than money.
Well, some people
You know,
feel
you
like
you
they're
can't
getting
get
their
time
day.
back.
If they're getting an easy day because they're still getting paid the same. So why not just
Yeah,
take my time? Why step it up?
yeah. I get that. People definitely, that's definitely an argument that people have. It's like, well, if I'm still getting paid, it's that hourly mindset.
I've
And I'm like,
enjoyed our conversation. We have so many talks because I see you coming in so many, almost like you're blindsided sometimes
yeah,
with the pace
totally.
that things goes, and you're just like, but everything you've learned, you've been executing well. You're so patient with our clients. You give them the time and attention that they need. Where I'm a little bit rushed because I'm always looking to take care of the next shiny object always has my attention, and I'm always looking for that next way that we can navigate through. Just like the wholesale problem, the order gatherer problem. There are problems out there. I'm just looking for a way to solve them so we don't have to complain about them at happy hour every night. Let's come up with
Yeah.
something new to complain about.
I think it's one of the really cool things that I admire a lot about you is I mean, you're such an entrepreneur at heart, like at your core, because you come in with our clients and you look at, I think it maybe blows them out a couple times where you're like you were saying earlier, like sometimes I'm a lot. And I think sometimes you're a lot, but it all comes from a great place. And it's like you're a lot in a good way because you come
Yep,
in and you go like, this is how you can run your shop better. You treat it like it's your shop.
I
You
do.
don't have to do that. You
I
could
do.
easily go, pay me for this service. We'll do this service. We'll make sure you're happy. And it's like, look, there's maybe nothing wrong with doing it that way, but you come in and you're like, you're so passionate about this industry. It's why you started Bloomerang. You're like, I sold my shop and now I want to give
Yeah.
back to the
Yep.
industry. And it's such a cool thing. So it's so cool to watch you when you especially when we onboard a new florist and you're like guns blaze like gung ho in there. You're going like, let me try and help you make this as best as it can possibly be. I love that about you. It's
It's a
like you're
double-edged sword, though. I get in trouble for that. I was managing
yeah,
one shop when they were you go to their homepage and all these pictures are swinging by the homepage. Like, that's overwhelming. Don't do that. It's like, now I'm looking to buy an arrangement. Oh, there's a good, oh, it's gone. They put so many banners. There should only be one banner, maybe two, because people aren't coming to your site to get razzle dazzled. They're coming over to find an arrangement that they can afford that they want to send. And I want to make that process simple. And when I'm working with the client, I treat it like it's my own. And I really get in a lot of trouble for that. So I've got to sometimes step back and say, I may think of a different way to do that, but you can do what you want. I just don't know why they're not realizing that that's hurting things more than it's helping things, helping the
yeah.
transaction.
It comes back to what I was saying. It's like some of these shops don't realize what they have in their hands, and it's like you can't say this because you can't edify yourself. It sounds
Yeah,
crazy,
no,
but
thank
when
you.
I look at you and I go, a lot of these shops don't understand that you're bringing 30 plus years of experience, successful experience. You have, I mean, what now it's been since you started websites.
Yeah.
So,
I
20
started
something
managed
years.
services. That was cool. The managed services, nobody ever pays to have your website managed because I watch flower shops tripping over their own feet. They make a mistake here. They didn't put that on there. They didn't put an ad on in this arrangement. They didn't have the checkout done. And because I care so much, it bothers me. So it's like, all
Yeah.
right, how do we do a better job at this? But yeah, I'm glad that you noticed that, Eric. Thank you. You made me look at myself through a different set of eyes because I know we're on the same team, and sometimes I feel like I'm not on the same team because I get so aggressive about it because I'm trying to make you understand that I know you want to look at all sides like you always do, but trust me when I tell you we've examined all the different ways, and this really is the best. It's in the best interest of the florist to consider what we're showing them. And maybe I need to be in the back room somewhere and let the others manage my energy and all that. But who knows where the future is going to take us? But I love where this industry's been. I love where it's going. And now we have AI, right? Well, where was that 2 years ago? It just came around. So there's a lot more to happen, and nobody's got the answers. And as far as I'm concerned, so we do have to get this wrapped up because I love talking to you, not because you're so, I'm like such an interesting object here, but I mean, you bring up great analogies and thoughts and ideas about what I say and do and the way I do it because you've given me some great pointers on what I maybe should do a little bit better and maybe that I'm not doing so well. I appreciate all that, but the industry is still evolving. So to think you know what's going on and be prepared for today, you're going to find yourself in an environment you will never recognize in 2 or 3 more years. So keep evolving so you can be relevant with what's happening and not be left behind, I guess is the best tip I can give you.
Yeah, and you've been a phenomenal example of that. Like, it's one of the things I love about talking to you is I get to learn. And coming into this industry, I don't have a bunch of experience in the floral industry, and it's been fascinating for me to learn from you with all of these decades of experience. You've tried everything and you
Yeah.
kept what worked. And we've
Yeah.
seen this with, some people in our industry who are, I guess you could call them competitors. And we hear from we hear from new clients who come on board. We hear their complaints about some of the other people offering managed services. And it's like they're just, what they miss is they don't have the experience in the floral industry. They can only know, like, they only know what they know and they can only offer
That's what I'm
that.
saying, right?
But
Yep.
yeah, it's one of the things that I absolutely admire about you is you take your knowledge and you just want so badly to apply it so that you can pay it forward. And I think that's
Well,
really cool.
look at what we're doing now. You just started getting the emails back for the TikToks. People have been saying, I want TikTok. I want to get into the TikTok game. We're bringing our clients into TikTok. So many flower shops want help with that. They want to get involved. There's a huge market out there. I don't see any agency that's taking these shops that they're managing and to taking them to the forefront like we are. And now we're conquering TikTok together. To me, that's exciting because I'm watching them go to levels that I've already started getting Christmas cards and little notes from people. Thank you so much. I'm so glad we met you. You've been such an inspiration. That's really nice. It makes my day to see things like that because I know that they're talking about our entire family. It's not just me. I am only as strong as my team at Bloomerang Solutions. They're saying thank you to all of us. So everything I come up with, if you guys can't back me and help me and lead the way, we're no different than anyone else. The biggest difference we have from anybody else is I've got that experience that I give everyone, and I sprinkle it depending on who needs what. You want to talk about weddings? We did over 300 weddings a year. You want to talk about deliveries? You want to talk about how many deliveries you do an hour at Valentine's Day? When should you have a cutoff? Whatever your challenge is, I welcome people to ask me. As a matter of fact, Eric, I think we're going to come up with a channel that I'm going to be available on every night from 6 to 7. I think I'm just going to turn my computer on and let it sit there. If somebody wants to ask me a question that they can. I like to hear what everyone thinks of
Nice.
that.
Yeah, it's like
So,
office hours.
right, when you're done with your day, you had something that happened during the day. The last thing I want to say is LOL. You know what that means, right? Do you know what it means?
No, I mean, other than laugh out loud, but I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Ready? Lost order log. We've been
Uh,
talking about the lost order log for years, and flower shops are still like, yeah, I'm going to get that done. Or, all right, we don't get that many. I know you don't get that many. I hope you don't get that many. But when you do, don't you want to know why you lost an order?
well,
So
it's like free market research.
it
I mean,
is.
it's
It
like
is.
it's the most organic form of market research. You go like, why didn't that work? Can we make that work?
I'm going to give you 2 tips and I'll wrap it up. Number one
Okay.
is when people want to know about their bounce rate, that's the biggest waste of time because a bounce is when somebody goes to your website and leaves it. It's also when somebody goes to your website and calls you. They're both bounces. So how do you know that it's bad? And the other one is a lost order log because that's the only thing that's going to tell you exactly why you lost an order. No other. Eric, I
Interesting.
want to thank you. I mean, I'm thrilled to have you on our team. Everyone on our in our group knows who you are, and for anyone that comes aboard with us, you'll be meeting with Eric when you join us. And we welcome all of you to talk to us. Let us know what we can do to help you. These next, what are we at? December 11th, 12th. Everything is calm right now. Everyone's got everything under control. Next week, at the end of next week, will be another story because that's when it all starts blowing up. It's going to get fun. It's going to get exciting if you're prepared for it. Otherwise, heads up, it's coming. So thanks everyone for watching. We're going to do another one of these maybe in a couple of weeks or at least by next month. And if I don't speak to everyone sooner, happy holidays from all of us at Bloomerang. And Eric, thank you. And we love having you on our team.
Thank you, Art. It's a pleasure. We got a great team, so it's an honor to be a part of it.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.